the other teams out there. We watched Seattle beat Houston pretty. That was pretty solid. I mean, and Seattle they're looking like they're going to be a good team this year, even after that ass whooping they took in the Champions League. So
they always have been a talented team, and they've acquired some solid players in the offseason. I think they're going to be pretty good contenders.
How about San Jose over Toronto?
Oh man, San Jose came up big.
Yep.
3-0 against Toronto.
Wondolowski.
I definitely think Wando is going to be contending for his third year in a row at the Golden Boot. I mean, he just keeps finding the back of the net.
He's a poacher.
Yeah, he's a poacher, and I guarantee you he's going to continue to get looks from Klinsmann as the season progresses.
Well,
I think he will.
I mean, he probably will. I might take issue with that if he does, because he doesn't usually pick many real strikers, since he's now listing Donovan as a striker and even Dempsey occasionally as a striker.
There's limited positions, I agree, but he's got in my opinion, he's got to be above Agudelo and Bunbury in the pecking order as far as that's concerned.
I'm going to agree with you on that.
Of course, if planning for the future, I could see why Juan and Teal may be higher up there, but as far as needing a result now, I would look to Wando.
I would look to Gomez.
I would look to Gomez before Wando as well.
Me too.
But we know that's not going to happen.
Really? It better happen.
For whatever reason.
No, it's going to happen. We're going to continue putting on the pressure here and other places where people agree with us.
Well, Gomez keeps putting the goals.
He just scored more.
Yeah.
He scored another one. It's like, come on, what do you need him to do besides score goals, which is what he's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And Beasley, by the way, you can't take him out of the picture either, because he's scoring goals, too. He scored this weekend as well. Mm-hmm. So you can't take either of those two guys out of the picture. However, we were talking about San Jose. Toronto without Frings looks like a drink without a straw. They look bad. And you know what? They're going to get their asses kicked in Champions League because Frings is not there. And we talked about this before, and you said, hey, a team cannot just have one great player that without that player, they fall apart. But that's what Toronto looks like they're doing, falling apart because Frings is not there. He's their leader. He's their captain. He's the best player on that team.
And I made the comparison earlier off the air to L.A. All the fans in L.A. were saying, oh, Gomez was a rock. He was our rock in the defense. And, if you're relying on one player to really run your defense and without him, you're lost, that's a big thing. Fortunately for L.A., and unlike Toronto, L.A. is a very offensive-minded team, and they're very good at creating opportunities.
Yeah.
So even if they do leak goals throughout the season, I have a feeling that LA's offense is really going to continue putting some away. So
yeah, I think they've got they got enough offense to kind of sometimes make up for the difference. But at the same time, moving on, I mean, because we were talking about Chivas winning and how much of a big deal that was because they look so bad the whole season so far, and isn't the whole season, not very long, but it just didn't look like. Well, first of all, nobody's showing up for their games, and number two, they're losing all the time. But now they finally squeaked out one with RSL. At the same time, I last week was spanking New England and saying they just looked horrible because they did look horrible. And then Benny Philhauber's out for a game, and then they go on and beat Portland.
Yep.
I didn't see that coming.
Nope, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But Portland shows that they are just a team that can be beaten. And I'm not sure. New England's a question mark right now, whether or not they can continue anything.
Yeah.
Who knows,
Boyd missed a couple big opportunities in that game, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the thing. I think Portland's going to be a solid team this season.
I do too. Yeah.
I don't know about New England. They may start notching the results, but I'm not holding my breath.
If they do, all props to Heaps, because I just did not see that coming. They really, on paper, look like one of the worst teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They really did.
Okay.
I don't care if you have Benny Philhauber. And by the way, they're playing what's his name?
Joseph?
Yeah, they played him at center back in that game. Center back. Is that not amazing, or what?
I saw him come back for to save some opportunities, like some clearances not off the line, but he got to the ball over Boyd a couple times. And I just thought he was recovering.
No.
He was covering back, but I didn't know he was actually playing center back because I only saw the highlights of that game.
No, yeah, I got the one sheet on it. He started at CB. Now,
Lord.
And I kept looking at.
That can play everywhere, can he?
He really can.
Yeah, he's going to start. He's going to start for Reese when he gets injured next. It's the only position he hasn't played yet. It seems like.
Yeah, he really seems like he can play anywhere he wants. Of course, as he gets older, this might be a better spot for him, because he is so tall and lanky, and his defense has always been really solid. Why not try him at center back?
He's a smart player. He can read the game. And like you're saying, as he gets older, that might be the best option for New England to do. You know?
Unfortunately, they're paying him DP money to do it. But
that was the thing, and you're not gonna. He's not gonna. There in the future, there's not gonna be too many years where he can continue running that pace he's running.
Yeah,
he's gonna slow down naturally, and I think center back might not be a bad option.
Yeah,
or a pure defensive. Just somebody that does sit back more.
Right. Yeah. So. Well, update. Kansas City just came back and tied Dallas. That game's on Galavision, and that game is now 1-1, Kansas City versus Dallas. It was a pretty interesting lineup or matchup. Other games we have not talked about, Columbus, Montreal. I don't know. There were two games I thought were boring. Vancouver, D.C., which ended 0-0. So I don't have much to say about either of those games. And Columbus, Montreal. Columbus, won it pretty well, 2-0. And I just... neither game was that thrilling to me. I don't know if you caught any of those.
Much like I caught some of the Columbus and Montreal game. Much like the other Montreal games, they had their opportunities. They just need to start capitalizing on them. The other teams are.
Yeah.
Not much you can say about it. I mean, they're getting the chances. They're just not finishing any of them. And that you can boil that down to possibly just being an expansion team of a bunch of players thrown together. They may find their groove. But as of right now, they're not capitalizing on any of their chances outside of the one against Chicago.
Yep.
I think it's going to be kind of a rough season for them.
It could be. It really could be. And again, I guess we kind of started off with going into this weekend where the West was really dominating. The Western Conference, again, having a better season than the Eastern Conference. I would hope that evens out as the season goes on. But there are no obvious guarantees that that's going to be the case.
The East definitely looks weaker compared to the West, but it's early in the season, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many talented teams in the West right now. L.A., Real Salt Lake, Seattle, even Portland. I mean, FC Dallas.
Right.
And one of the stronger teams in the East used to be a West team, Houston.
That's true. I know, and that makes it even more obvious there's something wrong in the East. But we'll figure it out. I mean, really, it looks like right now Kansas City is a super solid club. And I just don't see them. I see them continuing to perform all season long. And for whatever reason, Columbus seems to be the same way. They just seem to be a team that year after year do well.
They find a way to make it work.
They do.
They do.
Chicago.
They're MLS's hardest working team.
Right. That's what they say with that sort of village people looking sort of emblem. I'm not a big fan of that, but all right. Well, you don't watch commercials, but that NAPA Know-How commercial, I think I talked about this with you the other week. NAPA Know-How, that NAPA Know-How commercial, most over lip syncing commercial I've ever seen. Horrible commercial, must be removed. And then on a final note,
well, what about that J.G. Wentworth one where they're singing opera on the bus? Obviously.
J.G. Wentworth, yeah, that's pretty bad too. That is pretty bad actually. But this one, that there's this idiot, and he stands up and he's holding a heart, and he sings things about how can't be a pulmonary surgeon. Oh, but he really knows his auto parts, and it's so over lip synced, and it's so overdone. NAPA really needs some help there, and it's amazing to me that someone got paid to make that commercial. You know, the guys that make a lot of the insurance commercials with the little lizard, I mean, they're doing something right because everybody wants to watch those. I see that and I just want to puke, throw something at the TV. I want to turn it off. I can't stand that commercial, and I'm never going to NAPA to buy any auto parts. I'll go anywhere but NAPA as long as they continue to play that song as their commercial.
NAPA is the sponsor of the Bob and Tom Show.
Yeah, but I don't live in Indianapolis anymore. I don't listen to Bob and Tom.
Oh, why don't you listen to Bob and Tom? You can listen it worldwide.
You know how long it's been since I listened to Bob and Tom? I'll give you an example. Remember the spoof they did on the Dickens brothers when they bought a cider company? Remember that one?
I do not.
And their commercial for Dickens Cider? Nothing my girl likes more on a late, cold night than a warm Dickens Cider. You've never heard that?
I have not heard of that.
Oh, that's so classic. That's classic Bob and Tom, and that's going back to the 80s, my friend. The 80s when I did live in Indianapolis.
That's probably why I haven't listened to or didn't hear that.
What, you were like 10 then, right?
Yeah, I really wasn't listening to Bob and Tom then.
Well, I was in high school, and that was the big thing, Bob and Tom. And you listened to them in the morning on the way to school or whatever you were doing.
On your Walkman?
On my Walkman, yeah. Are you making fun of me? You're making fun of how old I am, Brett?
Hey, I had a Walkman too, but at one point in my life.
And then they
got quickly upgraded to the portable CD players.
And those skipped constantly. You couldn't.
You had to keep it upright. You couldn't tilt it to the side because then the laser.
Yeah. Those were complete bunk, man. Those sucked. And I remember having something like that in my. I had a car, not an Acura. I can't remember. It was an old gold ugly thing. And yeah, you'd have to plug the tape into the tape player, and it was connected to the CD player, right? And it played the stuff. Every time you hit a bump, you might as well just start over again because the song went dead.
Then after the CD player, I got the mini disc player. Instead of going the iPod, I went to mini disc, and clearly that failed.
Yeah, it did fail because
pretty quickly.
iPod's that's the.
And then I went to iPod. Yeah.
iPod, it's all stored inside of it. You don't have a little disc spinning around where every bump affects the laser.
No, the mini disc never had bumping issues.
Oh, it didn't.
It looks like a small floppy disk, is what it pretty much was. So,
speaking of silly things, Juventus, I didn't know this. They have cheerleaders.
Yeah, I just found that out today too. Actually, watching the game, and my brother in the other room was like, "Juventus has cheerleaders?"
Who do they think they are? The New York Cosmos? This is ridiculous. I did not know Juventus. Maybe this is just a one-time thing.
It's a team that doesn't need an off-the-field show. It's a team that has a history of, being top of the league, or at least the top two of the league, and they're currently in fights for the Scudetto.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the idea of cheerleaders at soccer. You don't need the off-field show, in my opinion. But
yeah, I think it's that brings me to the other thing. That announcer for the USA versus Canada game, he did say some other funny things. He said, "Only in America do they announce who got a yellow card over the speaker system."
Do they announce what?
Who got a yellow card over the speaker system?
No.
They do that in Europe?
They do that in other places, too.
In Europe?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought he was making a good point. I'd never thought of that before.
No, you hear it all the time. I mean, not every place does it, but they do announce it.
No, not the announcers. Over the loud system at the stadium.
Yeah.
So, let's say, Liverpool is playing, and somebody on Liverpool gets a yellow card. Then they would say, getting a yellow card was Steven Gerrard. Is that what you're saying happens? Because I've never heard that before.
I don't know if Liverpool does it themselves, but I have heard it in European games before.
I have never heard that. So this is news to me. And then they don't announce the goal scorers either. Scoring that goal was Steven Gerrard. They don't do that. And by the way, Steven needed to score this weekend.
They just assume that everybody in the stands know the players. Whereas here in America, not everybody in the stands does know all the players.
So you're saying I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not used to it.